Hey, Chick Chatters, it's Anne coming at you again solo. I didn't think I'd be doing another one of these for a while, but especially solo, I didn't think I'd be doing a solo one again for a while. But I watched Sister Wives again last night, and I was expecting to maybe cover Sister Wives again next week's episode because that looks really good. But then I got a little bit triggered by something that was said in this week's episode, which I will get to that first, I think, because I'm not really going to do a whole episode recap. There was only a few things that are even really noteworthy to talk about. I'm going to start off with the thing that triggered me and made me feel a need to do kind of a public service announcement. I kind of felt an obligation as a citizen in these here United States to educate my fellow American. So, educate, whatever you want to say. When Mary's talking about this dish at the Christmas Eve party, and she's saying that she makes it with what it says on the box is bow tie noodles, but she calls them butterfly noodles. They're actually called farfalle noodles, and farfalle is Italian for butterfly. So she's sitting here calling herself wrong for calling them the right thing. And that just, I don't know why it triggered me on the inside as an Italian, but it just triggered me on the inside to hear her call it the right thing, technically, but it then say it's the wrong thing. And I want to see this box. I want to see this box, Mary, if you're watching, that says bow tie noodles on them. I've only ever seen them say farfalle noodles, but I don't know. I had to start that off this way, and I had to get that off my chest. I feel a lot better now. I do. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, and my conscience is clear, and I feel I've done my service to my community, I'm going to get on with this episode. So, the first thing that kind of starts happening is they're kind of getting into what this fight that happened in the last episode. And bottom line of it is just that Jenelle doesn't think that Kody wants to be a plural husband anymore. And she's just crying about being 50 and having nothing. And like I said in the last recap, that's where I really feel bad for her. I've always been told to kind of have my own things, have things in my own name, have my own bank account. Even being married, I have a separate bank account. We both do. And then we have a joint account. I mean, I think that that's kind of like a norm these days. I don't live in a polygamous lifestyle where everything has to be shared. So I can't relate on all those points. But it is sad because if you do leave these relationships, it's kind of what keeps you stuck. And that's where she seems to be at. She feels stuck. She feels she's financially stuck, but she did box up his things and she put them into storage. And he hasn't come to claim them. She says if he doesn't, she's going to throw them out. I'm not sure why it took so long for him to try to get his things that she felt the need to put it in storage. Like, that's pretty bad. Also, the fact that he didn't even come get his stuff. Like, when Christine kicked him out, he went and got his stuff pretty quick. I mean, at least within a few days. All of his stuff was in her garage, and he went back and he got it, and he was upset about it, and he filmed about it. For some reason, it just doesn't seem like he cares about anything else but this divorce with Christine. And I don't know if it's because she's the first to do it, but he doesn't care that he's about to keep going through it for some reason. So I don't know. It's really strange. We kind of just get this back and forth between him and the kids. They're saying they left an open door of communication, and he's saying that he did try to contact them, but they don't return his calls. And I can't really believe that out of like the several amounts of kids you're having a beef with, that not a single one would answer if you called them. So I don't know about that. But also, as a kid at one point in my life, I do know that whenever I've been upset with some people in my family or my parents, sometimes I just cut people off until I'm ready. So it could be some of that going on too. It goes both ways. So I can't say because I'm not in that relationship. But it is strange to me that every single one of those kids would not have answered your call. So I don't know. They're having this Christmas Eve gathering at Robin's, and Robin talks about how she's been collecting Christmas Carol items and houses and figurines and things like that because it's Kody's favorite Christmas story, which at first, when I heard it, I was like, well, how ironic. And then he says it's because he, in a way, I guess, relates to Scrooge. He wishes that he was able to see 5 years into his future and given that same opportunity that Scrooge had. What's weird is he's still being a Scrooge. So whatever. He does acknowledge that it's probably hard and awkward for Mary to be there and be this weird third wheel. And he says that he has to tone down his affection with Robin, like way down because Mary's around. So that kind of, to me, affirms what a lot of the other wives are saying, that he's only really in love with one wife, seems to only really be wanting to be affectionate with one wife. So why keep this going? I don't know. It's just so weird to me. He acknowledges, it's weird the things he acknowledges subconsciously and doesn't think about it later as it's coming out of his mouth. And it does almost confirm the other women and the things that they say and the things that they say he makes them feel. If you have to tone things way down for Mary, I'm assuming he felt the same way when all the other wives were around too. He's just toning it way down, and probably for the cameras as well. He's probably very affectionate with Robin, and he never really seemed to be that affectionate with the rest of them. This apparently is their first Christmas separate completely. Mary thinks that her and Robin are the only ones trying to hold this family together. I think Mary's clinging on to the idea of a family, and I think she sees the writing on the wall here without the rest of the family. She really is just this weird third wheel, and it's just kind of awkward. But I don't think either of them are really trying so hard to hold the family together. Mary's pretty much discarded by Kody at this point. He's not sure what to do with her. He said it a million times on TV, it seems. He's openly said he has no attraction or feelings toward her, doesn't think of them as married. I mean, the list goes on. I don't see how Mary trying to keep the family together even has much of an impact, like she's also said before. Robin could have easily just told him to get out of her house a few days. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, when you're spending more time with somebody than the rest of them, they're around more. So I don't see how it's all this I'm a victim, woe is me. Y'all signed up for this. I get it. But y'all also signed up to work together, and it seems like that just didn't work out in this case. When it comes to Christmas, Jenelle is hopeful that Kody is still going to show up, which I thought was weird because I'm like, if y'all haven't even talked, why do you think he might show up or hope that he might show up? Like, yeah, it would be great if he would just randomly show up, but you also know who this man is. So it seems like when he holds a grudge, the grudge is held. It takes a while to get out the grudge. So that's what seems to be happening. And they just fought. She boxed up all of his stuff. I wouldn't really expect him at Christmas unless somebody reached out to him or he reached out to them. I wouldn't just expect him to show up with no calls, no texts, no nothing. She's hoping that he shows up to see their youngest, Savannah, which I do agree. I don't think that it's right that he is not texting her or calling her or saying anything to her. She didn't do anything to him. She's not in any argument with him. You don't ride your kids off when you don't get along with the parent. There are people in baby mama situations who can still make it work and still talk to their kids, even if they hate the other person and don't like the other person. They don't have to speak to that other person. They just drop the kid off, pick the kid up, and they kind of just keep it moving. There's a lot of situations like that. So you can still make an effort to see your kid. It's not really always up to a mom to leave the door open, which they're still kind of married in some sense. So I'm sure that door is open. He's got all these kids' numbers at this point. These aren't little kids that are in a weird divorce battle. It's just all these kids have phones, all these kids have numbers. He has a way to reach them. He could be reaching them. It's the holidays, it's Christmas, it's their birthdays. Where is this man? You need to separate what's going on in your marriages from what's going on with your kids. And even if you're having issues with your kids, I think you should be confronting that head on. This argument has been going on for at least a year, if not more. And that's insane. I couldn't imagine with my parent having that kind of an argument, maybe with a sibling or a friend or something where they don't have to see them all the time or communicate with them more often. But with a parent and it's about COVID, it's not something so serious. Like, I don't know. To me, I think that Kody is just being so stubborn and he wants the family to bow down to him in some way. He wants some form of affirmation through them that he is this leader, this king in their eyes. But the way you go about that is not by demanding it these days. We are not in Babylon. We are in 2023. And your kids have minds and are adults, most of them. So the way to do it is to just acknowledge your faults, hope they acknowledge their faults, and move forward. It doesn't have to be this whole big thing of respect and loyalty. And people can be loyal to you and be honest with you and have their own feelings and opinions. It doesn't have to be that you are right. And if people don't agree that you are right, then why be around them? I don't know. It's not healthy. And he says that the special Christmas that he's going to give and put on, that he's this happy guy, he's not going to be upset this day, he's going to put it on a whole show, is for the special kids and the loyal wife. And they deserve this Christmas from him. Well, that's great. But your other kids deserve the same thing. It doesn't matter who their mother is. I detest the fact that these kids all even feel they have to separate themselves. Like, I'm so-and-so's kids, I'm this, I'm that. He should be claiming all these kids as just his kids, not his kids with so-and-so. He doesn't make an effort at all with Christine's kids because she left. So what's the point to him? They don't all like me. Whatever. The only one who likes me is McKelty. I'll invite her over. Why not try to mend that bridge yourself with your children? They're your children. You raised them for at least 18 years. I don't get it. So when you go back and you look at footage of the sister wives talking about Kody, the thing that attracted them to him was he was a family man and he took very good care of his kids. And that's part of what Jenelle is losing in him and why she feels more compelled to leave is he's not treating her kids very well and he's now making her choose between those kids. And I believe her when she says that. I think he's pretty much said that in ways in other seasons. So it's not a far stretch for him to have said that to her, that she has to choose between him and her kids. And if you ask pretty much any mom that, most moms that, I should say, they're going to choose their kids. I mean, I don't know. Especially when that, in their culture, when their main job is to provide for these kids and be the main parent to these kids. They have these kids all the time. That's the thing. You chose to only be there a fourth of the time. So you got to put in more effort to be in your kids' lives. That's just what it is. So after this Christmas, we finally get to see him. We finally get to see the cross-eyed man and his warning. His friend is Nathan, we find out. And he must have been on this show before. I'm going to have to go back and watch some of the seasons that I missed. Maybe he's in one of those because he's not just his friend. He's Mary's brother-in-law. So at one point, he was Kody's brother-in-law, but he kind of gave up on his situation with Mary, got legally divorced from Mary. So I guess he just considers this guy a friend now. Okay. So they're going on this car ride from divorced man scorned heaven, I should say. It was just wow. So Kody wanted to pick Nathan up to talk to Nathan about his divorce. I'm sure people love just after they've gone through something already to just be picked up randomly and put in a car and asked a million questions about something that hurt them deeply. I'm sure that was just the highlight of his day. It might have been because it's going to be on camera, but it was just so weird to me to do to a normal person on a normal day. I guess not on TLC and not on reality shows, but if you think about it as like part of your normal day, it's just such a weird thing. And he says, I'm going through this divorce, but I'm still in love with one wife, and it must be really hard on her. And I'm sitting there thinking, so you've confirmed everything just there. You're only in love with one wife. You're only concerned about one wife. Doesn't that kind of answer a lot of these questions that you have about everything else? I guess you're mad that your vision didn't work out to have everybody around still, to keep the family around, but to only really continue in one relationship as a romantic relationship. And I don't know much about polygamy because I'm not a polygamist or have been in a polygamist family or around it growing up. I've seen specials on TV. I've been watching Sister Wives. But I can't imagine that, and I'm sure some do run this way because there's different beliefs, especially when it comes to religion and norms. But I can't imagine that if you're openly in love with only one wife, and she's also, 10 years younger than the rest, she's the opposite of all of them, if you think about it. Especially when she was first brought on, she was dark-haired, very, very skinny, very thin. Not saying anything about the other wives, just that they were voluptuous, they had curves, they were blonde. They were all different from Robin. Like they just were. And she was divorced with kids already. So she was already coming in so differently than everybody else. She was getting courted, and she was getting courted for longer. She got to have a real wedding, it seems. She's already had it stacked against these women from day one. So yeah, I'm not surprised by any of this happening. I'm not even surprised. The only thing that ever surprised me was that Mary didn't leave first. But if it comes to her faith, I can see why she stayed. But if it doesn't come to her faith and everything, I don't really see why she stayed. But that's just me. That's me. That's my opinion. So Kody's left with this struggle of going from this big family to this small family. And even when they show that, they don't show him going from a big family with Christine's family and all the other kids to like now him and Jenelle and Robin and the downsized family that way and Mary. It just goes to him and Robin and her kids. It's just reiterating over and over again in this episode. Kody has had one wife before any of these wives left. In my opinion, that's what it tells me. It seems everybody's got this sore spot in their side from Robin. The kids, the other wives, everybody but Mary, it seems. But I can't imagine it doesn't also affect Mary. I just think Mary brought her into the family, so she can't really say anything about it. That's my opinion, though. Never heard this term called sacred loneliness. Yeah, and that kind of threw me off. And it's funny that Christine's reaction immediately was to laugh when asked about it in her interview. And she said she has no idea what he's talking about. Never heard of that before. Mary says the same thing. Jenelle seems to kind of spit off something that she might have been told by Kody before about it being about sacrificing your needs. But Mary and Christine are notably the wives who grew up in polygamy the most. Christine apparently came from a notable polygamist family. Mary also grew up with her dad having multiple wives. So this is not new to them, polygamy at all, their religion at all. And they're both saying No. So apparently, according to Jenelle and the other wives, it is improper for a man to chase after wives and find them on his own. They have to be either invited or ask themselves to go into the family. And Kody believes that Christine and Jenelle asked to be married into the family, and they had a set of rules when being married into the family, that there would be other wives, there'd be this, there'd be that. And then he claims that Robin was then invited into the family, which, if you go back to the first season of Sister Wives, Mary kind of scouted her out. And in my opinion, Mary might have scouted her out because she felt there was a little bit of an imbalance between her and the other wives. I think they got along better than with her, or at least that's what's been said over the years, is that Mary was harder for them to get along with and stay getting along with, especially Jenelle and Mary. They've gone to therapy on the show. The thing I can agree with the most in this episode, I will say, is Cross-Eyed Man's warning for Robin and anybody else who decides to be with Kody. And basically, that's just that they're in for a ride. They're in for a ride. We're all in for a ride because we get to watch it. Kody and this man also talk about how Kody and Robin are having hard times and how they have a lack of trust in their relationship. And Robin says in her confessional that Kody doesn't trust her very much, that he thinks that she's probably going to leave. That's what I got out of it. And I can kind of see that, honestly. I bet she is going through that. I bet he doesn't really trust her. I bet he's putting a lot of anger out on her. I don't think that Robin is going home to like sunshine and daisies every day with Kody. I do think he's a lot more affectionate with her. I think that he tries harder for her. As you'll hear in this, he thinks and cares about what she thinks and cares about. So, and he's in love with her, and he said that. She's the only wife I'm in love with. I'm sure that they are having some hard times right now, but it's weird because they're making this divorce about themselves and his relationship with him and Robin, and he's letting it affect all the other relationships around him negatively, like his kids and everything else. It's just crazy. Nathan, Kody asks him, like, why aren't you telling me your deepest, darkest thoughts? Man, don't ask people their deepest, darkest thoughts. They don't want to tell you that. Why are you asking this man on camera his deepest, darkest thoughts? I don't want to know this man's deepest, darkest thoughts. I don't. I do not. The thoughts we're getting are fine. Thank you very much, Kody. But basically, this man tells Kody that he needs to reforge his sword and get back out there. It got me right here. They got into this darkness that they kept referring to, Kody's darkness. And Kody thinks that he should just be the devil he thinks he is. And he says it all crazy. I have this in quotes because it was that touching. Nathan says about this whole darkness thing that things that I thought that I never thought I could think, I thought them. I was like, what? And then they talked about some gremlin being inside of Kody. I was like, what is going on? Gremlin? Sir, maybe you don't need a therapist. Maybe you need like an exorcist. I have no idea what's going on there. They were talking about this darkness and gremlins and this urge to be mean. And I'm like, Kody, if this divorce is affecting you to this degree, we might need to get you an exorcist or a very specialized therapist. You need to work on something. There is no reason that anything in your life should make you this angry for this long and let it fester inside of you. Basically, we get another confirmation that Robin is the favorite because Kody doesn't even want her to see any of this segment where he's talking about his darkness and stuff. He doesn't want her to see it or his darkness or his dark thoughts. Like, bro, you are on TV. You are in a confessional. She's going to see this. You guys said in the last episode you guys watched this stuff. What? It's almost as baffling as marrying their bow tie butterfly noodles. What? But basically, that's the gist of this episode and my thoughts on it. Yeah, feel free to leave a comment or give me a like or a subscribe. I do plan on doing another episode next week to go over Mary's departure, maybe. We'll see. That's what's a rumor. But yeah, well, thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you for chit-chatting, and I'll see you next time.